Well, for a talk entitled Why Am I Here? I feel like that song provided an excellent answer. Why are we here? Maybe some of us have a dream. And I would like to think that that dream is of a better, more holistic, more integrated, more loving future. Welcome to the Center of Love, my friends. You might wonder, how did I end up here? And where is this so-called center? The good news is it's the easiest place to find. As I always tell people, if you're looking for directions, it's at the intersection of here and now. Wherever you are, that is the center of love, or at least has the potential to be. So we come together here as always to celebrate and to be celebrated, to support and to be supported, to inspire and to be inspired, to uplift and be lifted up. Amen. If you've got lots to give, come and share your wealth. And if you are lacking in any way, come and get some. We got hugs, we got advice, we have listening ears. And by the way, give yourselves a pat on the back. These are hard times. These are strange and uncertain times. And so if you need to hear this today, let me tell you, you're doing awesome. Yes, you are. May not always feel like it, but you are crushing this thing called life. You're a being of immense power and creativity. And if you don't feel like it every day, just know that we are all here for you. We've got your back. So get out there and do your thing. So to open us up, I wanted to share a quote with you from Oscar Wilde. He says, "Disobedience, in the eyes of anyone who has read history, is humanity's original virtue." Original virtue. It is through disobedience that progress has been made, through disobedience and through rebellion. I talked about this a couple weeks ago in my talk. I said, nature has placed limitations upon us, and human beings regard these limitations not as immutable or absolute laws, but as challenges to overcome. And we overcome them eventually. Nature, for example, says, no wings for you guys, no flying. And of course, we say, hold my beer. Challenge accepted, right? It might take a few centuries, but eventually we'll get it done. If we can conceive it, we can manifest it. As I said, beings of immense creativity and power. Now, this is especially true when we bring our curiosity, cleverness, and imagination to so-called problems and limitations. Here's a problem for you. I live in Finland, and every single port in Finland freezes over. So how am I supposed to sail off and do things if my entire dock is frozen over, right? What if I want to, I don't know, sail up a river, but there's a bunch of ice in the river? What am I going to do then, right? So these are the types of problems that human beings look at and start to work on. And of course, we do resolve them. And that's why we're constantly redefining the meaning of the word impossible as a species. For what was impossible last week, or last month, or last year, or maybe even last century, is not only possible today, but it's commonplace. Imagine a medieval person seeing this setup with a camera and an audio and people around the world, people in the United States, people all across Canada, all tuning in at the same time. We do this without blinking an eye. But 100 years ago, this would have been straight up witchcraft. So that just shows you how quickly we can make the impossible possible. And our speaker today, I believe, exemplifies this quality in spades. When Arno Keinonen hears the word impossible, he says, challenge accepted. Where most people see the obstacle, Arno sees the way forward. Now, in searching for words to describe this incredibly thoughtful, kind, generous, and inspiring man, there was one word that rose above all others, and that is the word pioneer. This is an essential core of Arno's life and self. Now, it probably helps that Arno was raised by pioneers. His father played a key role in rebuilding Finland's infrastructure after World War II. And his mother, for example, was the first woman to play in the Finnish, was it the National Orchestra? Yeah. Any orchestra, even more. So again, breaking new ground, uncharted territory. This is the household, the environment, and the example that Arno grew up with. So unsurprisingly, Arno chose to pursue an extremely challenging field, naval engineering. No, but that's too easy. He decided to do naval engineering in ice, right? Because boats it's too easy, but boats and ice, now that's a challenge. So Arno, over the years, he's designed icebreakers, including the first ever riverbound icebreaker. So there were icebreakers before Arno. He didn't invent all of them, but he came up with all kinds of new ones. And again, if you were trying to go up a frozen river before Arno, that was impossible, okay? Until Arno got his hands on this so-called problem. That's just one example of the many firsts that he has achieved over his long career. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is he also helped design and engineer offshore platforms in ice. So you have to remember, this is ice that's constantly shifting and moving. And so how do you set up something that's stable and something that has the potential to obviously leak, as we all know, as it's extracting oil? And so whether it's, icebreakers, whether it's offshore platforms, Arno was able to successfully design solutions. And he always did this with the primary concern of safety for everyone involved. So whereas some corporations and some people are eager to cut corners for profit, Arno from day one was all about taking care and making sure everybody was safe. Now, he would call this risk mitigation, but I would call it being a caring and ethical and principled human being. Speaking of which, Arno has shifted his directions of late. He's not building oil platforms anymore in the Arctic. Like many of us, he has become concerned with the way things are going in the world and with climate change in particular, something his father actually warned him about in the 70s. So again, another pioneering moment, ahead of the game. So when faced with a problem, Arno sees solutions. A few years back, Arno and his wife, Linda, built another first, the first ever harmless home, made out of this amazing new building material that is basically magic. It absorbs carbon for decades after it's installed. It's structurally sound, and best of all, it's 100% fireproof. So now Arno is back to his pioneering ways and covering unmapped territory in an effort to bring this miracle product to market. And I won't go too much detail, but spoiler alert, he's facing a little bit of resistance from the established power structures and systems in place.
No kidding.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
There's a shift upon us, my friends, but the old ways are clinging stubbornly. Luckily for us, this isn't Arno's first rodeo. I won't say any more. Instead, I will let the man speak for himself, and I will welcome Arno to the pulpit to share his truth with us.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's not about ice breaking, maybe more spiritual breaking. But it really is that my father perhaps warned me in 1970, not me, International Lions Force actually. I didn't believe I didn't think about any of that then. But then 20 years later, I had changed my mind because I had been so much industry disasters in the offshore industry, whether it's ice or not ice. The safety came in as a criteria when I see the devastation from a big industry. And then the safety came in. I wasn't initially safety conscious. I felt that after the Second World War, I only was born 2 years after the war ended. The obligation was to do good things to the country and to the people, to the world, to recover from the war and allow life to continue in any kind of reasonable fashion. And the safety issue, it's kind of, maybe that's the only story I really need to concentrate on this one here. The safety issue really came when the first Russian offshore oil tried to get the permit to operate, and it was in an area in Russia where there's ice. And Lloyd's insurance underwriters didn't accept it. But I then went to Lloyd's insurance underwriters to prove that it is going to be done safely. And when I could do that, in front of them, I think 10 people in 2 hours, proving that safer than most other operations. That put me in charge of safety of the Arctic operations in so many ways. But that today's speech is mostly about this, that I think most people, when they live and work, they want to do meaningful work. They want to feel that they're doing something that is creating results which are good. And that's what I don't know my life. But the criteria of what is good has been changing. Initially, it was just to do something good so the country could work. And then it was extending the operations into ice areas. And in Canada, specifically, that was the Arctic. That was quite exciting, of course. Anything new is exciting. But then what happened was that it no longer felt good to just expand the industry, but to make sure it gets regulated so that the vision of mine started to see the need to respect the nature. And the more I listen to spirituality, it is the people and the nature. We are all part of the nature. And when we don't respect the nature, we are actually harming ourselves. Because we are all integral part of the nature. And the spiritual component of this to my life came from a man who lived in Victoria, who passed away, John Shields. He was in charge of the government labor union of 35,000 employees, who pointed out in his book that, and he was trained as a minister, Catholic minister, but when the Catholic Church changed the rules so that it was not possible to do it according to what he was being taught, and he was forbidden to teach, he actually lost his license to operate because he was totally spiritual. And he pointed out, and I joined with him for about 10 years, since about 2007, a men's spiritual group, where this John Shields took us to a forest. There was 15 men, and showed and demonstrated in a few days how nature and humans need to be integral. We are all part of the kind of life here. If we harm the nature, we end up harming ourselves. So we are eating away about our own future, our own safety, our own everything by destroying the nature itself, or harming the nature. And I wanted to read something about this, because the key sentence in what, well, I should say one more thing. It looks like any big institution, when they gain too much power, they start to be greedy. It's money and control that has to control that. It applies to anything, whether it's a spiritual, whether it's industrial, food, health, you name it, any big industry, including pharmaceutical. And then they change the rules so that they can gain more control. And in the religious example that I wanted to read specifically is that the change for the wording, just a minute. Oh, there's too many. I put too many markers here.
It's a good book.
It's a very good book, actually. This is written by this John Shields.
Did you want to hold up the book to the camera so people online can see the book?
Yeah, I mean, this is the book.
Great, thank you.
A priest who left his religion in pursuit of cosmic spirituality. Okay, so it's okay here.
Dyslexic to read.
what was the rule? Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and for people and subdue it and rule over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the sky and over every living thing that moves on earth. That literally separated people from the nature and gave people the full right to use the nature and on the earth. Which is I mean, I can see why he no longer could be a minister after that. And that is destructive. And that is exactly leading to all the bad things that happen. And when I've been working, I always felt good about what I'm doing. And I honestly believe that most people who are working even today, they feel good about what they're doing because their company, whoever employs them, is feeding them back that they are doing a great job, rewarding. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad for the future. But most people on earth believe that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But it includes all the consequences of all this change of the rules that are given the earth for the people to consume and apparently to destroy, which is happening, poisoning. So my kind of spirituality really started, I mean, I always felt in my life that I did good things, but when the spiritual part woke up, that's when everything started to change as a consequence, because the perspective started to change. And that is thanks to these John Shields. And there was I would say it was about 2000. He passed away 2017. It was a couple of years before that. 2015, I said that's when I first really woke up what spirituality is and what it means to do good things in a general, real sense. And that's why I'm here. When I woke up to that, based on the men's group, both Linda and me, we started to look for ways to do something genuinely good, to support the nature by building. We look for ways to build a sustainable way of living and as earth and future supporting way. And that was the big change. Everything looks different when that is the motivation. So we probably live or possibly live in the most eco-sustainable home on earth. All the feedback comes from different parts of the world. So, and that's thanks to having woken up to spirituality. It's kind of funny how the technology and spirituality get connected too. So I must say that this group here, in my view, is one of these things that every time I come here, it reinforces and further kind of focuses what is it that I can best do for the future and what is required in the future. And I like to kind of close the speech by saying, okay, so to me, in order to have a sustainable future on this earth, a few things which are important. The profit motivation cannot drive health, nature protection, and perhaps even most important, the science. Because if science is genuinely there, then the actions based on the genuine science cannot but lead to good. But when science is silenced, then the big money can do anything they want. And in my mind, that is, I consider being a scientific grade, I got a doctorate in the science. I think this is one of the things that I always asked, even same with the COVID as well. When it started, I said, where's the science to prove? There was no science shown. Science has been fully hidden. So personally, I feel that is my mission, to try to make sure the best way I can that the science itself cannot be silenced, but it has to remain independent. The rest, so all in all, I've been a solution seeker and I continue to be so. I say that I pretend being retired because I actually work just as many hours as I used when I worked. But what else can I say? I mean, it is something that's embedded in my system to do the best I can do. And that's all I can say. I hope somehow, and I'd be very glad to talk about any of this, because it is been all my career has been floating around the whole what is doing good and how to do good. And in today's situation, that means shifted in me, and I gladly take input, gladly communicate about anything, and do the best I can. And also, just so you know, this picture here, that's a painting that I bought in Linda's first art show. That's where it really met, actually. Yeah, so this is why the best thing happening in my life ever happened in my life. That is an example. Ice is actually quite nice. You know? I'm used to that.
How big is that? Just
This is probably about 15 meters. So there's typically 8 times more below.
yeah.
So that is actually offshore Newfoundland, where the ice coming from the north blows by there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Was that in April? Do you remember?
This one? Middle of summer, I think,
Okay.
actually, but I can't even remember the year now when it was. I had a company with an office in St. John's and
Looks like a big white goose.
yeah, it looks like I thought it's like the head of a seal or something. But anyways,
Hey,
So-
do you mind if I ask a question? Maybe I don't know if you're just to close it off. So you're saying profit motive in different industries. For spirituality, I think it's the same. If profit is the primary driver of anything, I think it kind of tends to corrupt it. So I would ask, in your opinion, what is a better motivator, or what is a better central sort of motive instead of profit to drive our pursuits, to drive this community, to drive business? What would be sort of a better motivation in your opinion?
oh, that's very pointed question, because everybody is that based on where they are in their lives,
Right.
and it's individual to it's individual in their position in my mind.
Yeah.
Like I gladly talk with anybody about it,
Yeah.
but I can only really tell my experience, because everybody comes from wherever their life experience is right now.
Yeah. But for you, instead of profit, what's a better motive
Well,
for you?
it is this that promote the sustainability.
Yeah.
I spent 2 days in Luton, which burned totally. And the solution of our type of house construction would be ideal, because totally private.
Yeah.
And I could talk endlessly about this, but that's not really the mission here.
Yeah. But it sounds like you're motivated to do good, and profit is a secondary concern.
Profit is no concern.
Oh, well, it's even better.
I believe in this, that if you do something good, yes, it gets rewarded.
Yes.
But as soon as money becomes the force of doing something, that kind of breaks already the genuine motivations behind it.
That's a good line.
Yes, thank you.
I like that.
Awesome.
Doing something good, it gets rewarded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
So how was it, everybody? So good.
It was good for me. Was it good for you?
So good. Yeah, great. I'm glad to hear that there was some good engaging conversations out there, and definitely some good conversations in here as well. And what I love most is that every time we do this, we have like a 30-minute discussion, and I always feel bad telling people time's up, because it's like, no, people still have more to share, more to talk about. And it's just so beautiful to see people connecting and not just.
We felt pretty complete.
Did you? Okay, good. And the best part is.
Synopsis from them and then.
Absolutely, yeah, we could do that, yeah. The best part is we're not just talking about the weather either. That's the part that I want to commend everybody on, because we're talking about politics and spirituality and ethics and money and science, and nobody's getting their back up and nobody's getting mad and nobody's storming out, which is pretty nice. Okay, yeah, quick synopsis. Who wants to give a synopsis for the outside group? Oh, Mati, okay, you're good. You want to come
Wait,
up?
up
or-
there, okay.
Yeah, might as well. We've only got a couple minutes though, so.
25 words or less.
Yes, there we go.
We talked about a lot of things. One of the themes was how powerful we really are as individuals and how to acknowledge that and how to work with that. And one of the ways was to stay in the heart. And being in the heart is a very powerful energy, and it trumps the lower energies. So we don't have to be in fear when we're in love. And when we're in love, that energy goes around the world hundreds of times immediately. So never underestimate the power that we have, the power that we have in every moment, and the power that we have even multiplied when we're in a group like this. That's 25 words or
That was good.
maybe 27.
It's nice that you had a central sort of theme to your conversation. Indoors here, we went everywhere, and we talked about education and reaching children early, raising their awareness. We talked about the scientific method versus more corrupt, profit-driven versions of science. What else did we talk about? I mean, we went.
Change.
Yeah, we went through the whole gamut. So yeah, it was a lovely conversation. I'm sure will lead to more beautiful insights, and yeah, we're changing the world. It's happening. It's not, we will change the world. It's happening now.
Yeah.
And at one point there's going to be a breakthrough moment where we're like, oh, we did it. And it's like, no, we've been doing it all along. It's always unfolding. And it's just every once in a while, there's a big, whoa, that was sudden, but nothing is sudden. It's percolating.